Hey, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. It's Friday morning, and we're in Circuit World here in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and it's time for Ask the Doc from Georgia Cancer Research Center, affiliated with Northside Hospital. We thank them for this segment. Dr. William Whaley is with us. Dr. Whaley, I want to get right into our questions, but first I want to say, while I have you on the air, we didn't get a chance to talk last night. Good job.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that, because that was your time that you took because you care about our community.
Our kids.
And exactly. And I want to tell you from the community, thank you, because they did a forum last night. We've all heard about vaping, okay? And some of us still don't know the health risk, what's going on at the schools, and what's really happening around that. And last night at Fannin County High School Performing Arts Center, they did a panel, which a lot of great people were on the panel. But Dr. Whaley addressed a lot of the health issues and a lot of the habit and addiction issues that happen from one thing. Dr. Whaley went a lot deeper than just the vaping. So that's on our Facebook page, Fetch Your News Facebook page, okay? It's on all of our Facebook pages. We videoed it, put it up, and you can watch it. Because
you don't have the actual presentation on your website, the slide set, do you?
Not yet. I just uploaded it yesterday.
All right, here you go, Josh. It'll be on the website by the time we finish. There you go. That's a slide set right there.
Oh, that's the slide.
That's the slide set. Yeah.
Okay. But we did that. And again, I appreciate that. And I mean, before we get started, I didn't know if you might want to make a comment on that.
Well, one of the things I learned last night, excuse me, I didn't learn, but because I've been saying it for 40 years, but one of the other people there was saying, well, you know, I never thought marijuana was a gateway drug, blah, 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 and I just did some research, and I learned that the marijuana actually affects the brain, site in the brain of the developing brain, which doesn't finish until you're 25 years old. That increases your addiction ability for other drugs. Well, anyway, on my news of the week, the teen brain just had a study published yesterday that the teen brain, and they use the teen brain at page 25, has even more structural changes than she was talking about. And everybody really needs to remember that marijuana, in all of its forms, has metabolic effects on the growth and development of the brain, and that there's no place for it. And that's enough of that.
Well, you know, generation after generation, kids in high school are going with what is considered the coolest thing. So the difference for me is obviously marijuana and some different drugs that have gone through our system and high school kids think is the coolest thing. These are chemicals.
Yeah.
And that marijuana, yes, a problem, but it's scary because these are chemicals. Yeah. And you start mixing up chemicals, and you don't know what you just inhaled, and that's the same.
Yeah, it came from China.
Exactly.
we're not supposed to be.
And I was talking about that last night. Oh gosh, what's his name? He's a good guy. Actually, he is the head of the pharmaceutical board in the state of Georgia. Bill
Prather. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
he had some great comments on that last night.
Yeah, he's an understated guy. You know,
he is. Is he not?
He didn't grab that microphone and holler into it like I did, but he was exactly right.
He was.
For somebody to put chemicals made in China that nobody knows what they are and are mixed together in the back room of the 7-Eleven willingly has got to have their head examined.
No, but you're leaving out the best part. He said everything you did. He said you're better off. You know more of what you're eating. You're better off with a roadkill possum.
Roadkill possum.
At least you know you got a possum.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Was pretty good. But
yeah,
he said, you know, you're smoking stuff that's coming from China, mixed up in a back room. Yeah. You don't know what it is. So
yeah, roadkill possum one was a good one.
Okay,
all right,
Fetch Your News Facebook page has the entire presentation right now of that last night
video. The slide set will be up.
Okay, Dr. Whaley, you know, I may say this next week, but right now this week, I think this is one of my favorite questions because I love a question that I can hear my mom in the background.
All right, go ahead.
And that one, we're going to do that one, so I give you plenty of time on the second one. Does repeated knuckle cracking then lead to arthritis like superstition says? So I remember my mom, don't crack your knuckles.
No. Simple answer. But show that first picture there of the hand, because there's a lot of complexity to this. I think you know somebody pretty well who twists their hair when they're not thinking or quiet, and there is a very firm link of twisting of hair to certain neurotic behaviors and the like. There are several different types of joint cracking. First, let's go to the chiropractor who snaps your joints. You go crack, 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 crack in your back and your neck. And there are people that can do that in their shoulders and their neck just standing still. The cracking of the fingers is the easiest because it's so easy. What happens when you crack your fingers, and people until the last 3 years really didn't know what actually made the noise, whether it was tendons moving across the joint or whatever. But now that we have rapidly available video CT scanning, what happens when you crack a joint is you take the joint, which is closed like that. It has a fluid in the middle of it. When you pull it apart like that, you are creating a vacuum between the two bones. There's a fluid in the vacuum, and when you do so, a bubble appears. So when I open that tab can, or you open a soda bottle, there is not a single thing of carbon dioxide in there. When you open the can and let the pressure come off, bubbles appear. So when you bring that joint apart by pulling it apart, that joint creates a bubble of carbon dioxide, which then comes out and pops. So it's not a tendon. It doesn't cause arthritis. Now show that first picture. Here we get to the place where cracking the fingers is a tic or a repetitive action that is annoying and bothersome to people. But the question is, why would somebody crack their knuckles 25 or 30 times an hour? So the knuckle cracking doesn't cause arthritis. It is a physics with that CO2 thing. But if it becomes so frequent that it's annoying to the family, or then you got a behavior thing you got to look at. You got that one? All right. Now go to the foot one. Now the foot one, that's interesting. My wife said she married me because I promised her that I would rub her feet every night, and I really haven't done so. I haven't rubbed my wife's feet every night. But if you look at this picture here, this is a picture of a foot massage where they pay. Have you ever had a foot massage?
No.
Well, I haven't either, but there's places over here and up here where you can go and get massages for $90 an hour, and then at the end of the day they do this foot massage. Well, when they do the foot massage, they do the same thing in these little joints in there, and I don't believe that the person that's having the foot massage actually hears the crack as much as the person who does the foot massage. But this must feel really good, because I think they charge $90 an hour. She's not getting it out of it. I don't know what they charge. But anyway, the part about the foot massage is the foot cracking. So the guy that's cracking his knuckles, he might like it up here, but there's something about the foot massage. We've just got a real agreement over there that is pleasurable. But anyway, it's not going to cause arthritis in your foot, and it's not going to cause arthritis to your hand unless the behavior is happening in school and the teacher is fussing at you about it, or your mom bugging your family at the dinner table. As long as you're doing it by yourself, it's not going to hurt you.
Well, Dr. Whaley, no disrespect, you are a doctor and everything, and I hope you don't get upset, but I'm going to have to stick with Mom.
Yeah, you're right. I would stick with Mom as well. Stick with Mom.
I was holding on to that. I agree with you 100%, but Mom said stop it. So.
Yeah, well, right, and it's certainly a behavior that is irritating to the people around you. And I think if Mom, it's like eat your meal because of all them starving kids in China. they aren't going to be benefited much by you eating the meal, but Mama prepared it, and she wants to see a clean plate. So whatever Mama says, we're going to go with it. All right.
We always thank Georgia Cancer Research Center, affiliated with Northside Hospital, for this segment. And our next question, this is one that I think a lot of you are curious about out there. I myself, I have heard that falls, bruises, broken bones, or such injuries could cause cancer if significant enough. Is that true?
I think the simple answer is no, but I'm going to give you a few exceptions here in a few minutes. Quite frequently, a trauma brings to light a condition that when you go to get it evaluated is malignant. The most common one is if cancer, let's say breast cancer or prostate cancer, has not been diagnosed in its early stage, and it is in a bone, and then you lift up this table or you slip out here on the ice and you fall and you break your humerus and you go to the hospital, you have fallen and broken your arm. When they x-ray it, they see that the bone right there is weak in the middle because there's a spot of malignancy. So fall and trauma can bring to light a process that is malignant. The one that is the most common is trauma to the breast. I've had patients who said, my big old dog jumped up on me and hit me with his paws, and he caused a bruise, and it's been about 3 or 4 weeks, and now there's a lump there. And then when you do a mammogram or something, there's a cancer where the bruise was done. Fortunately, you're lucky the dog bruised you, but the bruise had nothing to do with you becoming aware subsequently that that was a lump. Very, 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 very common. Now, we'll go, one of the common forms of injury that's not a fall, let's take alcohol and let's take hepatitis C, which they advertise on television all the time. Go get if you're your age, you're supposed to go get a hepatitis C blood test. They tell you all the time. Now, why is that? It's because the company put out the ad wants to sell the hepatitis C drug. You don't.
Well, I'm glad you answered that.
You don't need a hepatitis.
You
don't need a hepatitis C test if you haven't got a bunch of tattoos, you weren't in prison, and you weren't a rake and a rambling man. Well, maybe if you're a rake and a rambling man, you might. No, anyway, let's go back to the story. So you've got hepatitis C. You've got chronic inflammatory disease in the liver. It is that chronic inflammatory disease in the liver that ultimately causes you to have hepatocellular cancer. Now show the burn scar. The arm that he's showing up here is a patient who had a burn. I think I told you my nephew was burned over 60% of his body at one time. And over the next 15 or 20 years, when things would occur within the bone, within the burn, they had to be removed and analyzed. That's a scar. And in the middle of that scar is a cancer, which is really pretty big, but it's not deep. But that means that that's got to be taken out and re-skin grafted. So that inflammatory process can cause cancer. But basically, at the end of the day, the answer is no. Bruises, broken bones, falls, and injuries, if it's not hepatitis C in the liver, if it's not a burn, if it's not tobacco injuring your lung, does not cause cancer. Is that enough?
Sure.
Is that enough, Josh? All right. I want to make sure you got plenty for the.
Okay. So that leads us to the what is new or what is in the medical field that you want to share with our viewers today and keep them up to date.
All right. Well, first of all, I gave you the one about the marijuana and the brain injury that came from last night, but I think I heard it on whatever that news program is I listen to on Sirius XM when I drive my truck. So that's probably going to be in the paper in the next couple of days. In terms of the food recall, which I always do, 100,000 pounds of beef's a lot. Yes. 900,000 pounds of beef's a lot. 6.5 million pounds of beef were recalled the last couple of days. The only reason that I bring it up here is most often I say it's shipped to Kentucky and it was shipped to somewhere else. This is in Walmart stores east of the Mississippi. So I don't think for the next few weeks I'd go anything I bought at Walmart that was in the way of prepackaged beef. Well, I would take it back, and I'll get away from that one.
Here, what is contaminated? So, what happens? What's your opinion on when there's a major contamination of our food source?
Okay, I know exactly what happens. It's generally always chickens, or it's ground something. So it can be ground beef, it can be ground lamb, it can be something else. So the machinery that processes the meat, someplace in the line, the chicken didn't get cleaned well enough, or some external portion of the beef still had the bacteria salmonella on it, which is in the GI tract of chickens and beef cattle. Once it gets in there, it could be as little as you couldn't even see it on a teaspoon. But when it gets in that stuff and starts getting ground up, then the entire lot that went through at that time period is considered contaminated. So there might be only 200 or 300 pounds of that beef that's actually contaminated, but nobody knows which couple hundred pounds it is out of 6.5 million pounds that was processed in that machinery. So that's the sort of, every one of them is probably safe. And if you put it on your thing and cooked it until it was well cooked in the middle, like they tell you to, it would have killed the salmonella.
Well,
but you don't take the chance.
It's not food, obviously, but I used to sell a lot of products that had what was called batch numbers.
Yes, exactly, same thing.
And you could always go back.
Turn that can over, look at the bottom.
And you can always go back and look at the batch, and you could actually tell the supervisor that was on duty, what time, what factory, and how much was produced and everything like that. So what you're saying is, we'll just say it for being simple here, there's a batch, and they don't know where in that 6.5 this
that is.
So they got to clean out the whole batch.
That's it.
Bottom line.
All right, there's too many young people in here, but do you know what botulism is? No, absolutely. No, look at that. You know what botulism is?
Yes.
All right, botulism is a very, very highly fatal disease. Incomplete sterilization of canned goods was the most common way, and during a period pre-World War II and after World War II, when they didn't have sell-by dates then, right? They just put it in a can and went on the shelf, and you put it at the back of the shelf and didn't get to it. It might be 10 years later before you found it. Might even have rust around the ring. But if Mama saw a tin can that the top had bulged up on, that meant that there was gas being produced in that tin can that caused the pressure that deformed the tin can. And botulism is actually called gas gangrene botulism. And that was so fatal and so serious in our day, that's where the sell-by date and the lot number things came from.
Right.
So anyway, I didn't get stuck on food recalls, but it's always safer to do.
I could get sidetracked real easy, which me when you talk about cans. I watched a little documentary in the war. They get cans of Chef Boyardee. Yeah, and that's the guy that owns Chef Boyardee would send canned to the guys in the war. But yeah, canned food. I remember botulism. I remember that, and I remember canned food, like you said.
Well, you had a store.
I remember canned food. Like you said, if it starts swelling at the top, you knew that lost that.
Yeah, get rid of it. All right, I got one more really big thing to do.
Okay.
We're always talking about disease prevention. We talk about taking the baby aspirin. I was absolutely, I've said before that an aspirin a day is clearly preventative to some extent on colonic polyps and colon cancer. We know that it benefits people that have heart risk factors against heart attack. But there was an article in yesterday's online Journal of the American Medical Association, so it'll be printed next week. You'll see it. That huge studies of the a baby aspirin dose were found to lower the incidence of ovarian cancer, girls, and hepatocellular cancer. Both of those cancers are kinds that there's no early detection for. So the pap smear, remember 2 weeks ago we had an ovarian cancer question. So we go get your mammogram, go get your PSA, that's early detection. But you can't get early detection for hepatocellular cancer, which is generally fatal every time, and ovarian cancer, which is generally never diagnosed in an early stage. So if beginning a baby aspirin at 40, and that was the recommendation, by the way, at age 40 begin a baby aspirin, lowers by 25% the chance that your wife or your mom is going to get ovarian cancer, I think it's worth it. It lowered by, I think, 17% the chance you'd get hepatocellular cancer. Well, we already know over here it's going to be beneficial from a heart disease perspective and colon cancer perspective, so I really don't see any solid reason for anybody that doesn't have an aspirin allergy, low platelets, or some sort of gastrointestinal inflammatory disease where aspirin would be contraindicated to start taking a baby aspirin when you get to maturity and get to be in your late 30s or 40s.
Would that be the same thing as like a low dose?
That's what they call it, low dose aspirin.
Yeah.
Baby aspirin we used to call it, low dose aspirin.
Right.
And by the way, they charge an arm and a leg for the 100 milligram or whatever it is, and I'd say go to Costco or Walmart and buy 1,000 of them for $1.98. Please forgive me, but there's no superiority to Bayer over the Walmart brand.
And because last year, maybe even the year before last, but last year you really impressed upon me, time for my daily allergy pill.
Yeah, no, it is right now.
Yes. So
yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
Boy, howdy, is that ragweed?
Yes. So I take my daily allergy pill
today. All right.
Take my daily allergy pill, my low dose aspirin. Dr. Whaley, I appreciate you very much. And again, I want to say thank you to Dr. Whaley and everybody that was on the panel last night. Dr. Whaley really addressed vaping from the health hazards, but the addiction side of vaping, and that's on our Facebook page. We don't have it on the website yet. We just uploaded it this morning. It just happened last night, and you guys are already sharing it everywhere. I want to thank Dr. Whaley for getting involved in that. Vaping. This has been Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley. We want to thank Georgia Cancer Research Center, affiliated with Northside Hospital. If you go to our YouTube channel and go to our playlist, we built playlists for segments. You can always find this and send it to your friends. So when we get back, it's time for the All-Star Political Panel, and I look forward to this. If you enjoyed, tell you what, you enjoyed last week. Rick and Bruce are traveling; they'll be back next week. But I think the ladies carried the show.
All-Star Panel was,
they carried the show pretty well last week.
That's right. It's your Thor among roses today, man.
Yes, exactly. We'll be back right after these messages with Candace and Jane.